What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Sly Jordy, and welcome back to F1 23 My Team career mode for the Australian Grand Prix of Season 5. And if you missed last episode, we finally picked up our very first win of the career mode in Jeddah. Jeddah is a track that we struggled with the most. We've not even come close to winning any of them. Any of them that we've done, we've always, managed to make a huge mistake. And, just really struggled. And the only track besides Jeddah that we struggle the most on is Baku, which we're doing in a couple episodes' time. But today is Australia, which we have a decent record at. A P2 last season because we ruined it on the final corner. One of the highlights of the series is, we made it into a YouTube short and got a decent amount of views on that. And then we also got a P2 in Season 2. So, looking back at this, we actually have never gotten a win in Australia, funnily enough. So, that's strange, because it's one of my strongest tracks, and yet, we either just haven't had the car for it, or just had the wrong strategy. So I remember Season 2 we had the wrong strategy. Season 4 we made the mistake on the final corner. So I'm hoping this time we pick up our third win in a row. And of course our teammate George Russell is doing really well as well. And we're starting to run away a little bit by building a gap of points more and more and more. So we'll have to see what happens as Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, they're still in the fight. And then everybody outside of those are not really consistent. So we'll just have to see what happens throughout the season, but it's a great start for me and my teammate. So, yeah, I suppose that's all that matters in the end. The car is now maxed out, as we announced last episode. So, other than the couple of durability upgrades, we're done. And this one final durability upgrade, and then the final one is actually one of the engine supplier ones. So, yeah, we've pretty much got all the ones that you can actually purchase as of right now. So, the best we could do now, or all we can do now, is pretty much just max out these facilities. So, we're going to do that. We're going to max out aerodynamics. We're going to max out durability, just to say we've done it. It's not that we need to, as this is the final season that we're doing in the career mode, but, yeah. So we're going to do a funded team event, we'll do sponsor advertisement and reaction training. Performance comparison, yeah, our car is the strongest by a bit, McLaren have seen some gains, I've seen some improvements if we look at the progress history. Well, according to the performance comparison they have, but the progress history, we've not seen it yet, though we'll get to see next time. One of my biggest issues with the career mode is that the bottom 4 teams never really see any huge improvements because their facilities are just like, they're limited. Those teams can't upgrade their facilities, and I just think it's a bit unfair, and hopefully we get an update for that one day, I suppose. But yeah, as of right now, that is pretty much all we've got to do on the lead up to this Grand Prix. So, yeah, provided we don't get any department events, that is us done with this intro. We're going straight into the race weekend. Well, this is pretty good news for us. Once again, we've got a pretty perfect weekend, although we should probably have a look at the weather forecast. There is a slight chance of rain, but yeah, we're not going to get any rain in this Grand Prix, fortunately. So, yeah, but let's have a look at the progress history and see what teams have actually made some gains. Red Bull have made some gains going into this Grand Prix. McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes, they have all had upgrades going into this Grand Prix. So Mercedes are going to be able to compete with Alpine now. Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull kind of in a league of their own. We're going to be stagnating throughout the rest of this season. So hopefully we see some teams start to catch up. I don't think it's going to be this weekend now. I don't want to speak too soon, but I feel like we have all the advantages we could possibly want in this Grand Prix, and hell, throughout the season. So we'll just have to see what happens, but it is looking really good for the team right now. Well, here we are, our first lap of Albert Park right here in Season 5 of F123 My Team Career Mode. We are hot off the announcement of F124 and an all-new driver career mode, which, like I said in the video we made, works so well with my plans for F124, as we were going to prioritize a driver career mode anyway. And yeah, it just makes me a lot more excited. It makes me a lot more excited for F124. But before we focus on the next game, we've got to focus on the here and now, as we start off a pretty messy lap of Albert Park right here. So hopefully we make up the time on the straights, maybe in the corners perhaps, we'll see. And we've had to prioritize cornering here. I did a lot in the practice sessions, and cornering was pretty difficult on the setup as default, and so I've had to put 5 clicks on both the front wing and the rear wing, which may make us a sitting duck on the straights, or at least have us struggle on the straights. But in the corners, we're going to have a clear advantage over the rest of the field, so that is essentially the important thing. But this first lap, definitely not what I'd want, or at least not how it feels anyway. But we might be making so much time on the corners compared to everyone else that it will pretty much make up the time, you know, on the leaderboard anyway. I really hope so, as we now come round the final corner onto the main straight here at Albert Park, looking to see how our time compares to Max Verstappen. The rest of the guys who set a lap don't necessarily matter, and we're not too far off. We're just a few hundredths off of Max Verstappen here. So yeah, definitely validating a second lap, an extra lap, as I usually only do about 2. But it validates a second lap to try and clean that up, and we do manage to beat Verstappen's time. Quicker than Sainz, Leclerc, Gasly, our teammate Russell, but not quicker than Piastri. So Piastri in the McLaren sets a faster time, and we are unable to set a third time because of Valtteri Bottas. And I tried to assassinate him here as punishment, to no avail. So yeah, a P6 and a P9 for George Russell. So our car isn't the strongest round here, unfortunately, as Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari takes pole position. Piastri and Tsunoda in the McLarens behind him. Leclerc takes P4. Red Bull struggling quite a bit. Perez down in P14. Verstappen down in P8. Alpine looking quite strong. Ferrari and McLaren looking really strong too. So without further ado, let's go to the grid.
Well, this might not be the season opener anymore, but it's no less an event. So welcome to Albert Park for the Australian Grand Prix. We go racing today then in the state of Victoria, where the drivers have 14 corners and 3.28 miles to navigate at an average lap speed of around 120 miles per hour. The close proximity of the barriers make accidents inevitable, and recent history shows us that a safety car is not at all out of the question. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. An immense lap from Carlos Sainz yesterday puts him in pole position, and Oscar Piastri completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Tsunoda, Leclerc, Gasly, the owner driver, Ocon, Verstappen, Russell, Norris, Théo Pourchaire, Bottas, Liam Lawson, Perez, Drugovich, Joe, Stroll, Albon, Deruvala, De Vries, Sargent, and Kevin Magnussen fills the last spot on the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. Natalie Pinkham joins me once again in the commentary box. It's fantastic to have you with us today. I'm curious though, how do you think the drivers stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, the regulations aren't new anymore, but the teams and the drivers are still coming to terms with them. I firmly believe it's also track specific. We've seen some wheel-to-wheel racing throughout the year. Some tracks lend themselves better to it than others. I'd like to see it at every race in the whole season. Is that too much to ask?
So that wasn't the qualifying session that we were hoping for, but I'm not going to be too worried. Of course, we got the maximum out of the first couple of races, and of course, we've still got the race to go here at Albert Park. So as long as we've got a good strategy and we drive well, we can definitely salvage something from this. We're going to go with a soft to mediums strategy for this race.
The formation lap gets underway then, and it's going to be interesting today to see how the dry conditions could affect the lifespan of the tyres. As the cars make their way back to the starting grid to form up and get ready for lights out, let's hope the race ahead today is a thrilling one that will go down as a memorable Grand Prix in the history books. And
as we wait for the cars to line up on the grid, let's talk about something I really hope is better in F1 24, and that is race starts. I don't know what it is about the cars in this game, the AI in this game, but mate, they can't start a race for crap. Like, it's crazy how easy overtaking is at the start of the race on this particular game. So hopefully that is improved here in F1 in F1 24. But here we go. We now wait for 5 red lights to go out, and away we go. And it's a horrendous start for Pierre Gasly in the Alpine. George Russell gets a good start. He's right behind us in P6 as we look for a beautiful overtake around the Ferrari of Leclerc and the McLaren of Tsunoda. And we now look to chase down their counterparts in the top 2, Carlos Sainz and Oscar Piastri. So again, like I said, we're going to struggle a bit on the straights, but these corners are going to be our strong suit. And as you could tell earlier, we got really close to the back of Oscar Piastri, and that is going to happen quite a lot. We're going to get really close to the back of these cars in the corners, but lose them on these high-speed sections as Piastri is already pulling away from us. So definitely not a strong area for us, unfortunately, as Piastri looks to get away from us. But again, this corner in particular is going to prove to be really strong for us as we get really close to Oscar Piastri right there. Carlos Sainz off in the distance, pretty comfortable P1 for him, so we're definitely going to want to get the move done on the McLaren of Piastri right here as we now come around the final corner to finish off the first lap on the main straight. Now slipstreaming Oscar Piastri, we're using ERS as well, and now going around the outside clean as you like, and we now look to chase down the Ferrari of Sainz. And here we are. So it takes us a couple of laps, but we're here, and because me and Sainz had DRS and Piastri was unable to keep up with me, he's actually lost us. So we are now 5 seconds ahead of the rest of the pack, but we're still looking to chase down Carlos Sainz here, of course. Quicker on the straights, we're using ERS, we're using DRS as well, and he's still staying comfortably ahead of us. So yeah, that just tells you everything you need to know about my setup. We have really prioritized the corners here, but we're doing really well so far, peeking out just a little bit just to see where we need to brake, and we stick behind Carlos Sainz here. We're going to look for a pretty similar move on Sainz that we did to Piastri here. And yeah, once again, coming round the final turn to start the 5th lap as we now burn a little bit of ERS. We're using DRS here and looking to make an identical move here on Carlos Sainz. He makes it a little bit more difficult for us, squeezes us out just a little bit, and now we're side by side down this straight here, and we're still just about managing to keep to the side of him as he does give us a right old squeeze, and we give him a squeeze in return, and we're able to get into P1. But this is where our difficulties are going to lie. He is already right up our exhaust here. He just has so much more pace compared to us, and we are burning ERS here to just try and stay ahead of him as he has DRS. He doesn't he doesn't have the guts to make the move, I suppose. Not around there anyway. He's biding his time because this straight is a mad one for the AI. They screech past me. Wow. Carlos Sainz makes that look very, very easy. There's almost no point in fighting that at all, as Sainz now regains the lead right here in the Australian Grand Prix. So, yeah. And with that fighting, we've actually already lost some time to the guys behind. George Russell has had an amazing race. He's gained so many positions. And he's now in P3, not that far behind us as we move up to lap 8. Still going back and forth with Sainz, which has afforded Russell the time that he needs to catch up. He is just over a second behind us. And so it is not going to be long. But now we look to chase Carlos Sainz. He does get DRS, and we're going to burn ERS to try and keep up with him as much as possible. We dip a tyre in the grass, and I've had to take evasive manoeuvres. We go straight into the gravel, and Russell got really close to hitting us there. He did not want to, what's the word? He did not want to compromise his racing line there. And yeah, as we go past the stricken AlphaTauri of Alexander Albon, we are now the chaser once again, and we are just over 2 seconds away from the lead now after that mistake. These tyres have certainly gone off, and so on the next lap, I mean, it's good timing really. We could have pit a lap earlier, but I didn't want to, you know, compromise our mediums, and so we're going to pit right here. Yuki Tsunoda continues on. Leclerc, Piastri, and I think that's Verstappen, are pitting along with us, but we just do not have to worry about them in the slightest as we come out the pits ahead of Valtteri Bottas, just behind the Aston Martin of Théo Pourchaire, and we look to hopefully undercut the guys in front. So yeah, pretty good race for us so far. Other than that one mistake, we can still salvage it from here as we now come around the final turn to kick off lap 11. The top two are coming out now. We have undercut our teammate George Russell, but Carlos Sainz stays ahead, and wow, that's some aggressive defending from Carlos Sainz. No love lost between our old Season 2 rival here and honestly the Season 3 rival as well. Well, yeah, mostly Season 2 rival, and we get just as aggressive with him on that turn right there. He has gone onto the hard tyres, which is a bit peculiar, so we're going to want to make the most of that as much as possible, as he will be a lot slower on the corners compared to me and especially Russell. But Sainz with his DRS manages to overtake us. George Russell is looking to make an overtake around the outside as well, but it's just a little too late for him. So now we're back on the back foot here, looking to chase down Carlos Sainz. Yuki Tsunoda has decided to pit for hard tyres now, and we are now battling once again for the lead of the race. Slipstream on Carlos Sainz, looking to go around the outside, and that is as clean as you like. So as we now go down this straight, George Russell is looking to make a move on Carlos Sainz. I'm actually going to move a bit more towards the inside to see if I can block off Carlos Sainz's racing line and let Russell through for P2. So George Russell, what a race for him. We have chosen an amazing teammate, but unfortunately we've got a little bit of a failure on the car here.
With the DRS, you will not be able to open the rear wing. We're working on a fix. Stay out for now.
Yeah, so it is a DRS fault, which is definitely going to make us a sitting duck. But of all people to pass us, I don't mind it to be Russell. You know, if push comes to shove, we'll play the team game and let Russell get the win right here. So George Russell takes the lead of the Australian Grand Prix, and for the next few laps, maybe for the rest of the race, we're now mostly going to focus on just staying consistent and ahead of the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz here. So Yeah, and we now skip on to lap 15, going on to lap 16. That's exactly what we've done. Sainz looking for the pass. He's finding no space, however. And now our DRS is back. Our DRS is back, and now we can start going for the race lead again, as Russell was really, really close to breaking DRS there. So that essentially would have been race over if that was the case, as we desperately need the DRS to keep up with the other drivers, especially Russell, because he's in the same car as us, but with a quicker setup for the straights. So yeah, but lap 17 and lap 18, he's just defending really well. Like, as hard as I try, and I'm trying to be as clean as possible as he is our teammate, George Russell is defending really, really well here. And I'm trying to look for any moves, any signs of an opening, but again, he is defending so well, parking his car on the racing line on the apex to keep us behind here. And so we go on to lap 20. Sainz is still there. He's still lurking behind us, but we are focused on our teammate George Russell here. It's going to be a 1v1 right to the finish, unless we both make a mistake, and then Sainz will capitalise on that. But Sainz, he's chosen the wrong strategy. It's quite poetic, to be honest. It was the exact opposite, I think, back in the Australian Grand Prix. Didn't we go on the hards and then Sainz went on the mediums, and it turned out that Sainz's strategy was the better one, and he was able to beat us for this Grand Prix at the end. And another thing I've noticed recently is that we've never actually won the Australian Grand Prix in this series, and it looks like we might not be able to win it neither, as Russell is just staying consistently ahead. I'm burning ERS as much as possible. We're saving this last portion for this final DRS zone here. Here we go, but again, he's just so consistent. He has done so well, and of course he is on one lap fresher tyres as well, and although we do get a lot closer to him on this corner, congratulations to George Russell. He has finally managed to beat us after the last couple of races being 1-2s. George Russell rightfully takes the win, his first ever win for Slide Team Racing, and once again another 1-2 for the team here. It's a great Australian Grand Prix, and you know what, I can't help but be happy about it. You know, I'm still happy about it. I'm not crying at all. We're still P1 in the drivers, P1 in the constructors. That's all that matters.
Thoroughly deserved victory. So Natalie, what do you think helped them deliver this result?
Quite simply, a driver is nothing without the team behind them. So, a deserved winner, but we do have to give a shout out to the team in the pit lane and back at the factory. Very much a collaborative process.
A show-stopping performance from the three drivers approaching the podium right now. It's been an interesting Grand Prix, that's for sure.
So George Russell takes his very first win for Sly Team Racing. He is the future of this team, of course, as I retire at the end of this season. And yeah, we're just looking to lay the foundations as much as possible for the best driver to replace us. And Russell seems to be that guy. So he is keeping up with us quite well, and can actually show that he can best us in certain races. So this season might be an interesting one in terms of the team. Again, I'm hoping the other constructors manage to catch up to us to give us more of a fight for this title. But yeah, for our final season, I couldn't wish for a better start. You know, 3 1-2s in a row. 9 points ahead of George Russell, 31 points ahead of the nearest driver, and 76 points ahead of the rest of the teams in the constructors' standings here. So, yeah, it's been a great race for the team, that's for sure. And now we look forward to the next Grand Prix, which will be the Chinese Grand Prix, which will be a Grand Prix that returns to the official F1 calendar next year. So looking forward to seeing that. Hopefully Portimao remains on the game as well, and that it's fixed as well, because there's a few problems with Portimao on the main straight. But yeah, that is the end of this episode of F123 My Team Career Mode. If you guys liked it, be sure to hit that like button as hard as you possibly can. Comment, share, and subscribe. And I will see you all in the next video. Until next time, peace.